What's up? It's Mr. Enlightenment, the Kilowatt Poet. You've been enlightened, and you're watching Sunfire Films TV.
I got somebody with me today that I've known for over 10 years. Somebody I call a true friend. Back when I was running the streets, if you saw me, you saw him. If you saw him, you saw me. He even gave me the honor of being in my wedding. You know, when I think about this film journey that I've been going down, I definitely, he's one of the people I give credit for taking this thing serious. You know, he is somebody that the conversation is always great when we talk, man. We talk every couple days. You know what I'm saying? We know each other for so long that when we talk, it don't even gotta be anything special. But you know, he's somebody that he's a teacher, he's a poet, he's a lover of hip hop just like how I am. We got Joey Tucker, also known as the Kilowatt Poet, Mr. Enlightenment. He got so many names I can't remember all of them, but what's going on, my brother?
What's up? Appreciate you having me, man. Thomas Edis is my homeboy. It's the Light Show. What's going on?
Yes, sir, man. But like I said, man, I've known you for over 10 years, man. So a lot of this stuff I'm already know, but we're gonna go down memory lane. We're gonna talk about some new things, and we're gonna sit here and do what we do best, man. But you know, when I listen to your poetry and see you on stage and see the things that you write down, you know, I always think about, you know, like the rappers, the battle rappers. I hear the catchy lines, and I hear the you know, the metaphors or the punchlines, or you know, punchlines how a rapper would do. So who were some of the people that you listened to growing up, like the hip hop artists, the rappers that you grew up listening to?
So I'm a South Carolina guy. I grew up South Carolina my whole life, but I listened to a lot of the New York rappers. Wu-Tang Clan, big time fan. Jay-Z, Nas, Biggie, Tupac. Just anybody who was, you know, presented to me by, you know, watching Yo MTV Raps, Rap City, reading the Source magazine, just checking out videos back when videos was a thing, you know, on those MTV and BET in the afternoon, checking out the videos, and
Right.
that's big New York rap fan. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate all the genres and, you know, especially down south, but my introduction to rap was New York.
New York. That's always crazy, man, because you from the South, not too far away, Walterboro. I grew up in Charleston. And, you know, like, we close on age, man. So when I was growing up, it was always the down south guys. You know, I mean, I veered off a little bit, and, you know, like, we listened to the popular stuff that was on the radio or if it came on TV, but I didn't really dive in too deep with the up north guys until later on in life, man. We grew up listening to the Pastor Troys and the Outcasts and the Cash Moneys and the No Limits. So that's always been interesting to find out how people who are from a different area, like how they started listening to different people. So I always wondered that. But also, man, like when I listen to the poetry that you put out, you know, I hear like there's a lot of elements of that hip hop. So did you ever want to be a rapper? Did you ever think about doing rap back then?
Man, like, since I play sports too, you know, lunchroom, locker room, everybody want to talk about music in general. Somebody gonna start rapping. Every now and then you might try to do a little freestyle or something.
Yeah.
I never took it seriously, but coming through school and when the teacher give you opportunity to write a rap as a way to show that you learned something,
Yeah.
I did that. But I never really say myself a rapper,
Never
but
serious.
I guess I did have the ability to put the words together. Like, I remember being on social media, me and some friends just going back and forth,
Yeah.
writing some bars down, whatever. But I think everybody growing up that listened to rap, you know, they kind of,
freestyling.
they kind of took their like attempt at rapping.
Yeah. So, two questions. Who is your favorite rapper And who is your GOAT? Those are two very different questions, man. Like, favorite? And that it could just even be right now, because my favorite changes and my GOAT stays the same. But, who's your favorite? Who's your GOAT right
So my
now?
favorite current rapper then.
Favorite right now.
Favorite current rapper. Currency is my favorite right now.
Okay.
If you're not familiar with Currency, rapper out of New Orleans. He spent some time with Young Money, even with No Limit a little bit, but never really came out. But he's got like a underground, he's like just putting out rap, putting out music all the time. So I heard the name, decided to check him out. He did a lot of stuff with Wiz Khalifa, early 2000s. So I just kind of like started listening, and then I was liking it. So right now, he's one of my favorites to check out. And then all-time favorite, Jay-Z.
Jay-Z. We got the same GOAT, man. I ain't got nothing to say about that. But, I think it might have been the first time I saw you live, and I came through and helped you film. It was at the Eclectic Vinyl. And that was like super eye-opening to me, because I had never seen you perform before. And like, it was just cool to see you on stage, how you had the crowd involved. You had you said you had that presence, you know what I'm saying? You had the crowd participating, you look real comfortable up there. And I just wanted to know, is that something that you kind of always had in you? I know, like I said, you were a teacher, so I know you stand up and talk to kids all day. Did you always have that confidence in you to get on stage?
Not always. And it's a different, like for me being in front of kids, like I have a set curriculum I got to teach. So it's not like it's my work. I'm presenting the story and trying to help them understand the plot, characters and stuff. So it's a little different presentation. So I don't really get nervous standing in front of them, because they're going to feel how they want to feel about the school work anyway.
Yeah.
It's not like I got to win them over. It helps to win them over, but at the end of the day, we got this thing that we got to do. So that's a little different. But being a performer and then putting your words out, like I wrote this, and you want it to go over well, and it took a while to get to that point where I'll be okay with just putting it out there. Either you love it, you don't. I'm just gonna share it. For me, more than you, it's a fine line between like, do I write it for the crowd, or do I write it for me? And some poems you share, some poems you don't. But as far as me putting my work out there, when you saw me at that night, I had been working on it for a while. So I remember my first open mic in 2010. Like I still had the paper out. I remember my hands like being shaky, palms sweat a little bit, like Eminem, like palms sweating.
Mom spaghetti.
Paper, yeah, I ain't go that far with it, but
Right.
paper shaking in my hand, just trying to, not really looking at, that's the hard part. Like,
Up and down.
looking at the paper, looking at the crowd, you kind of get lost in just focusing. I don't want to stumble on the words, so it took me a while to get to where you saw me, but
Right.
it's definitely a work in progress. Still working on the stage presence and captivating the crowd, and I definitely, when I see somebody who's doing it, I'm like, oh yeah. Then it makes me want to step my game up. So I'm still working on my delivery and all, but I definitely came a long way from 2010, that first open mic.
Okay. So I was gonna ask you what your first moment was, but we already talked about that. So, do you feel like over the years, what are some of those things that, you talked about it a little bit, but what are some of those things where you're like, okay, I'm better at this now, but I need to work on these things? What are like some of those things that you look at and you're like, okay, these are things I got to work on? Or
So it's different poets and levels of poetry, like spoken word, and they got this little different pockets of poetry, but you got people that read off phones now, people that read off paper, people bring up their notebook. I realized for me, my best performances is when I memorize the poem and I say it. So that's what I've always been working on now. Like I write all the time, but just I want to have the the information memorized so I can give the best performance for me. You know, I've seen people do a good job reading it, but just me just knowing it and being able to look that person or look that crowd in the eye and be able to move around a little bit, and then I can kind of put that inflection on certain words and pause here. I just think it's a better overall performance when I memorize it.
Yeah. Is there a certain, like, you know, certain poems that you do, like I guess like a certain topic or certain things that you feel more comfortable writing, or is it just whatever?
I try to be creative sometimes. Sometimes I write about other people's situations, trending topics on social media. Sometimes I get personal with it. You know, I guess you gotta be going through something to write some personal stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm still working on that too, because like there's certain poems like it really kind of resonates more. Like I got some real personal poems, but I'm more of a lighthearted person anyway. Like you're not gonna walk away from one of my performances crying. You might laugh, but I don't think you won't have any tears shed over a poem that I write.
So do you feel like you don't want to be that vulnerable, or are you afraid to tap into that, or you just haven't done it yet, or you just feel like
I feel like that's something I need to work on. Like I guess it's just the way you decide to tackle a subject. Because you can be lighthearted about something that's serious. I'm just more, I guess I got a lighthearted take. Even if it was serious to me, I'm still gonna be me and put that little bit of humor in there. So people deal with serious situations different ways. But I got some poems that's pretty serious, but I think that's something in the future that I wanna, there's some areas in my life that I can kind of dig in that I really don't. You know, I talk about it with close friends, family, but I feel like I don't know if I'm ready to dig into it like that, because I don't know. I think it's a certain type of, I like feel good poetry more. So if I do write it, I don't think I'll be on stage doing it. So I think I'll just write it just for the sake of me writing it,
for yourself,
instead of like putting it out there.
Yeah. So I know we talked about open mics a couple of minutes ago. Like, what's your thoughts on open mics? Like, do you feel like in this day and age they matter anymore? Do you feel like, I don't know, like when I look at open mics, it could be, you know, any kind of open mic, but the way that I see them, they don't really matter as much to me. I mean, you know, like back in the day, like people would get a record deal off of open mic, or they could become famous off of open mic, or, you know, now I feel like when you go to a lot of open mics, it's just people in the crowd. A lot of times they might even have it at a venue or a place where everybody isn't even there for the open mic. So they talking and doing their own thing, and then the people who are paying attention are your peers most of the time. So it's like, I'm not really here trying to like win y'all over, because we both do the same thing. So it's like you're performing for the same people who are about to go on stage right after you. So I don't know, like, what do you feel about how open mics are? Do they even matter anymore?
I like open mics, and like you said, it depends on the organizer. That's a big thing to think about, because you want to perform for people, not just poets, or if you're a comedian, not just for comedians. I want some people that's there to just enjoy it too. So there's some good open mics that at this point, I want to be able to perform to some people. Like, it's cool that, you know, it's like this. I'll do poetry because I love it, whether it's 5 people or 10 people, but it helps to have a nice receptive crowd while you're doing it. So now my open mic, you know, I got a couple people, shout out to Marcus Amaker and Los the host in Charleston, Courtney the poet. They got some open mics that are pretty popular. Now I'm more about going to different cities. So that's the open mic scene that I like. I want to go to a new city that has a kind of like a solid foundation. Sometimes the open mic starting out, it's only going to be a few people, mostly the poets there, mostly the performers there. I would like to perform to a nice receptive crowd. So if a organizer already has that longevity of their event, then I definitely want to go, and I'm definitely, you know, open to being perform at an open mic. But usually, I like what they call a closed mic is the set performance already been made. Like it's not just come up there and sign up.
Yeah.
Like I know who's performing. Like I got solid performers throughout the night. It gives a better overall performance. Not saying that a new poet is not gonna be good, but it gives that, person that doesn't do the poetry or doesn't sing or doesn't play music. Like you pay your money to hear a polished performance.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the best thing for me. Maybe you got one or two spots for a person that you didn't expect to do it, but I got my performers already set up for the night. Yeah, that's what I like.
Yeah, like you kind of said comedy for a second. I filmed some comedy events, and it'd be the open mics, and they've have nights where it's just anybody can go on stage, and those are usually the ones, like you said, man. It's like the people up there, they knew, they might be reading off the paper, they might be stuttering, they might not have everything together. So those are the ones that aren't the best. And then I've been to open mics where, they have the set list where like, okay, these are going to be the 4 or 5 acts that's going to be here. Then we'll have like 2 slots where newcomer. So, I mean, it gives the chance for, the people who are more polished. Then you have a few slots for the people who are just trying to get their chops. And, it kind of works out better that way. But I know you're a teacher. So let's talk about teaching a little bit, man. How long you been teaching for?
This year 19 for me.
19 years, man. And what do you think about being a teacher? Do you feel like that's something that you always wanted to do, or maybe not always wanted to do, but do you feel like you enjoy it now, or is it just a job that you just like, I gotta get paid, I've been doing this for so long that like this is what I'm gonna do? Do you love it?
Well, when I started off, it was more the benefits of it. Me and my dad conversations over the summer. He worked hard out there, landscaping, working at factories. So he came to me like, you probably don't want to do this kind of work that I'm doing. You want to have something more stable. When the weather gets bad, you don't want to have to deal with elements, good benefits, retirement plan, all that type of stuff. So when I was in college, I started taking the introduction to education classes, started doing well. I'm a pretty creative person, so one thing I like about education, there's more than one way to do it. We don't all have to teach the same way. So, when you got in the middle school, high school, you had 4 or 5 different teachers in a day. They didn't all teach it the same way. Some might do groups more, some might do projects. As long as you can get the goal of that skill being learned by the kids, then you're good. So I appreciate that. The art of teaching, I love the art of teaching, but it's like every other job, there's a lot of politics that go in.
Yes, sir.
Trying to deal with keeping everybody happy. I like teaching is almost like customer service now. You're trying to keep people happy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of impossible to keep everybody happy. So just know that you're going to be hearing some complaints from parents, and everybody's kid is their priority. But I have 24, 25, maybe even close to 30. And as long as I'm treating everybody fairly, that's all I can guarantee. Yeah. So, your kid is getting all of the attention that I can give him or her. So, your kid is going to come home with that story, and it might not be the complete truth, but everybody's story is going to be a little different. But teaching, the art of like giving information, that's kind of how my poetry name came about, Mr. Enlightenment, because I was thinking like, when you're giving somebody information and you've been going over something with this kid for last 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe even weeks, and then all of a sudden a light bulb comes on. So that's kind of like, oh yeah, that's the action of giving information. That light bulb moment is when you get an idea. So that, I was like, all right, that's a play on words right there. Mr. Enlightenment, I'm a teacher. I'm also trying to shine on stage as far as performing. it all kind of tied in together. And then later on social media, I started going by as Kilowatt Poet. That was my handle. So the teaching, like I said, I love doing the teaching part. It's just the dealing with all the different personalities and situations that might pop up. Like we kind of wear a lot of hats as a teacher. Like, I got a kid that's sick, they come to me. They have a problem with their friends, they come to me. They can't understand a problem or understand a story, they come to me.
Yeah.
And I'm dealing with all of that at the same time.
So when you get up in the morning, that alarm clock goes off. Are you happy to go to work? Or is it this at this point where it's like, hey, I've been doing it for 19 years. I'm probably not gonna be doing nothing else until I retire. Or are you happy?
As a morning person in general, I'm not ever say I'm happy when that 5:15 alarm comes on. But it's a matter of like, once I get going, it's good. Like once I get it's like you dreading practice. But when you get out there, then it's all good then. It's muscle memory at that point.
What's going on, guys? Sun 5 Films here. If you live in Charleston or the surrounding areas and you need a videographer, please let me know. Whether it's a wedding, corporate event, live performance, I do a little bit of everything. So once again, please let me know. Now let's get back to the interview. You're watching Sun 5 Films TV. So what are some of the things that you want to instill in the kids that you teach? Or what are some of the things that once they leave your classroom, you want to say, I taught them this, or they took these key things with them in life and I want to make sure I did that, or I would make sure I taught that? Or what are some of those things that you want to be remembered for from being a teacher?
I know just over the years, just hearing about it, I want to be the person that kind of made them an independent learner. Like when you get into middle school, high school, you're going to struggle with some things, but I try to, set them up for, I'm going to be here kind of when you fall, but you got to, it's almost like the analogy when I was telling the class. First couple weeks, we got the training wheels on. After that, it's time for me to let go and let you start riding. So you know how it is when you first learn how to do something. You're going to fall a couple times, but get back up, keep going, that perseverance. I want them to kind of be able to problem solve too. Because a lot of students I see that they ask me a question, and if I learned this over the years, if I put it back on them.
And you teach what grade?
I teach 5th grade. I taught 4th grade, and now I teach 5th. So basically, at this point, I've done probably half of my years in 4th, half of my years in 5th. So it's been upper elementary. So they are a little more independent, but still they have their moments where they need that reassurance. But I'm trying to get them to be their own help at times. Because a lot of kids, what they consider, I need help. Like, okay, what have you done? I haven't even started on the problem yet. I can't even help you if you haven't taken that first step. So I'm trying to get them to be a problem solver too. So a lot of the time, a kid asks me a question, I put it back on them. Like, okay, what have you done so far? Or I'll ask them a question to get them thinking.
Right.
And then at the end of it, they come up with an answer on their own. Like, well, what did I really do for you? Like, you answered your own question.
Yeah.
So first thing to do, raise your hand. Have you read the question? Have you looked through the choices? Have you went back and tried to find something? I was like, you give me what you think, I can agree or disagree. So I'm telling them, don't expect me to give you the answer. But if you give me your answer, I can say, oh, you're on the wrong track. This is where you should be going. This is your thought process. I'll agree with it, disagree. All right, then I kind of rearrange their course. So I try to put it more on them to be that independent thinker, independent learner.
So do you feel like it's kind of, I don't want to use the word babysitting, but is it like, do you feel like you're doing things that maybe they should already be doing on their own, or maybe they should already know a lot of stuff. Of course, you know, they're still young and they got to learn a lot of things. But do you think when you're teaching, a lot of the stuff that you're doing is more of getting them to do things on their own and learn how to figure things out more than, not more than, but you know, you're teaching, but do you feel like you're doing a lot of stuff that is like, yo, I'm making you do stuff that you should probably already be doing anyways?
Yeah, especially because reading don't change much. If you think about, you was in elementary school, you was talking about the main idea of a story. And then in high school, you're still talking about the main idea of a story. Only thing happens, story gets longer, words get bigger, the themes will get more adult-like, or, you know, a lot of like serious thing like death. Like you start seeing, I read a lot more children's literature where kid goes through something serious, like you know, and the topics in the stories get a little bit deeper, and you know, dealing with loss and life, and you know, they have like family members passing away and stuff like that. So I like that because language arts, it's almost, I go back to, I use the sports references a lot because I played sports growing up.
Yeah.
You're a basketball coach. Same thing you try to get the 5-year-olds to do, you're getting the 20-year-olds to do, because it's still dribbling, shooting, passing, rebounding. The skills are the same. I'm just honing the craft.
Right, right.
So I'm trying to get a 5-year-old to dribble, and then now when you get 10, I want you to cross over.
Yeah.
And I want you behind the back a little bit. You know, like we had 1 play and you're 5. Now we got 15 plays. So it's really the same thing, but we're just trying to get you to be more, I guess, independent while you do it, and then more skillful when you do it.
Okay, so I wasn't even gonna ask you this, but now that I'm thinking about it, now we sitting down talking, like, what do you feel about school in general? I mean, I know there's like, we have to learn the basic skills, reading, writing, math, and stuff like that. But it comes to a point where I guess it just seems to me that it's busy work, you know? And then we go off and we go to college and get jobs and stuff like that. And then a lot of times, like I'm going off a little bit, but off course a little bit. But a lot of times when we grow up, we use the basic knowledge, but then we go off to go to college and get a degree or something like that. A lot of times people don't even use those things. So like, what is your take on school in general? And like, when does it get to a point where you feel like, I mean, unless you want to be a lawyer or something like that, when does it get to the point that it's like, these things are like, it's just busy work? Like, when does it get to that point? Or do you even feel that way?
I don't feel like it's busy work per se, because let's say I'm not the best artist, but everybody goes to art until you go to middle school, and then you can choose which one you want to go to. It's just making you a well-rounded person. So that art teacher has a certain thing that she's teaching you or he's teaching you, and you working on that. So I think a lot of it is being well-rounded. Like, looking back at it, maybe I should have took some more music classes, or it would have been cool to learn how to play an instrument. I didn't always want to do it back then, but then I got older, I was like, it's part of being more well-rounded. Like some of these classes that you take, for example, history. Yeah, you need to know, I guess history is important because, you know what happened and then how to keep it from repeating. I feel like you know what happened in the past, you're supposed to be able to like
But what are you
navigate
like? Do
through
you use that later on in life?
I think a lot of those classes it's good to expose you to that stuff, especially like South Carolina. There's a lot of historical important events that happen here, like if you didn't know. So just being aware of it, I don't think you got to be all, spend years and years learning about it, but some of the classes are a little more important than others. But I think school in general just learns you how to work together, follow the rules,
Right.
work hard, deal with adversity, learn how to manage your time. Like those are skills that school is basically preparing you for.
So what you're basically saying is we get the knowledge, the things that we have to learn, like reading and writing and math, stuff that we have to do to function in this world. But a lot of it is just to make you a well-rounded person. And a lot of it is to make you a people person so you can be social and make friends and learn how to do certain things to mold you into being a person in society. But a lot of the stuff we're not going to use.
I think it's like, yeah, the school method of school in general could be changed from the time we went to school to now, which it is a little bit. They got way more technology stuff involved in the way they get the information. You know, they're allowing them to, you know, I can look up some stuff now versus when I couldn't look it up. But I don't know. It's like, you gotta, it goes, I mean, we're kind of like not making it up ourselves. Like, it's something that, as educators, this is what we need to teach. And I think if you can take the main thing, if you get through all of your school as a kindergarten through 12th grader, and you develop study habits and how to get along with people, I think that's going to put you where you need to be as far as an adult. So I think even though all of it is not necessary to be learning, I think you can, when you get in middle school, high school, you're allowed to start picking and choosing some of those electives. Like, all right, I want to be a mechanic, so I can go to class for this. Or I want to be a nurse, I can start taking some classes for that.
Yeah.
So they allow, when you get in middle school, high school, and now the game's even changed now. Like, some of these high schoolers can think about, we could have had you could have been having your associates by the time you graduate high school.
Yeah.
There's kids like, once you take care of all your basics, then you can start taking college credit courses. So if you do what you're supposed to do and get your basics out of the way, then you can take advantage of the other stuff they offer now.
Yeah. And then they got Montessori schools, and in Montessori schools it's more of like what? Just like letting
It's like
people
on your level. It's more like, because in a traditional classroom, you got a student that might be a grade below or a grade above, and then you got somebody right on grade level. Montessori just means I got multiple levels of work going on at the same time. So if you are if you're on a sixth grade level, I'm giving you sixth grade work. If you're on a fifth grade level, I'm giving you fifth grade work. If you're on a fourth grade level, I'm giving you fourth grade work. And that's all in one class. So perfect world, it makes sense, but for that one, you gotta have more teachers to make it work, to me. Like, the one teacher doing that is like hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
But if I had multiple teachers doing it, yes.
Yeah.
My high level kids gonna get challenged. My lower level kids gonna get the help they need. And then if you're right where you need to be, so it allows me to teach my levels of different learners. Because, you know, there's always somebody that's gonna be more advanced. Like, somebody's gonna finish work in 5 minutes. Somebody's gonna take 2 days to finish it. Somebody's gonna take 30 minutes. So Montessori just allows more specific instruction.
Yeah. So you get old and gray, you're sitting in that rocking chair, you walking around with that cane, you an old man. What do you want to look back on your life to say that you accomplished these things? Or what do you want to look back at and say, I did that? And also, like, what do you feel like your purpose is in life?
I can say now, after 19 years, that my purpose is to share this information that I have and prepare the younger generation to be the adults of the next president, the next doctor, the people that's going to take care of me when I'm in that rocking chair, like you said. When I retire, people that's going to be taking care and running the world after me. So right now, my job is and I think I've been successful doing that, because I'll get emails back from kids that was in my class years ago, or a sibling of a kid is like, oh yeah, you need Mr. Tucker, you need to have him. Like, and they're like, oh, I want to be in your class. My sister said this, my brother said that, this kid on my bus said that. So I feel like even though they might have not liked it at the time, years later, when you become an adult or you're in high school, like, oh man, now I can do this, because I remember back when I didn't want to, he's making me write these long paragraphs, and he was making me being accountable for my behavior, and making me organize my stuff and not letting me take shortcuts. So I think I'm starting to see where people appreciate the tough love. So
yeah,
that's my legacy right now. And I'm some people like moving around different schools and different types of jobs, but I've been at my same school for 19 years, and it's just cool to see that I'm touching, like, it's a neighborhood school. So I just thinking about how many families have I impacted, how many kids that's gonna be telling their son or daughter about this teacher that they had. And I'm talking to teachers that I've been teaching with when I was the new teacher, and they were the ones that were about to retire. It's like when you start seeing the kid of a kid, that's when it's like full circle. It's like, I taught your mom. Like,
wow.
Damn, that's crazy right there.
Yeah.
But I haven't gotten that point yet, but I know some kids that I taught that have kids. So depending on when you have your kid, it could happen before I retire.
So how long you got left?
Technically 9 years.
How long you think you gonna stay longer than that?
I'm gonna keep going. Like, I can see 30 years, but right now I'm
30 more?
30 total. I'm 19 right now.
Yeah.
I can see. So 28 is what I gotta get to.
Yeah.
But I can see myself doing 30. But even when I'm done with that, I kind of want to be more specific. Like, I want to, right now my idea is to teach poetry to kids and be more specialized. Like, right now I'm teaching everything. But then when I retire, I want to, like, hey, I'm coming to this class, but I only want to teach your kids poetry. So that's kind of my thought process now, is I'm getting ready to wrap up one type of teaching where, all right, now I'm passionate about poetry. Now I want to come in. I don't have to do all the other stuff, but I'm going to come into this teacher's class and teach poetry, because you can't really get in depth. There's so many different things you got to teach. It's almost like you need somebody else to come in that can just focus on that one thing. So I've had people come in, even the school districts do it. They get somebody to come in, specialize in that one thing, and you get that kid's attention because you're only there for a couple days. Like, oh man, we get to do this. Like, it's not like a repetitive thing where they lose interest in something if you do it all the time. But if this is one guy that came in for a week and we wrote poems and we shared our poems, like, I think that'll be something that will be a good thing for me to do at the end of my career.
Yeah, and then you said that made me forget something that I wanted to even ask you a while ago. Like, do you think that people still care about poetry? Is it a lost art? Is it one of those things that, that, I don't know, like, I remember when I was younger, man, we talked about Outkast. They always had Big Rube on they albums, and we look forward to listening to that. And I had a moment in my life when I lived in D.C., and I remember Def Poetry Jam. They went on tour, and I went and saw them in D.C. one time. And I feel like those moments or those things that we grew up on when we think of poetry, they're not existing anymore. They're like, do people still care about poetry?
It's still there, man. Like, it just depends on, like, the region or what city. Because to a Charleston person, poetry might not be that big a scene. But you say when you lived in D.C., it was a big scene. Like, for example, go-go. To me, I've never lived in D.C., but I hear about it. You experience it. Like, go-go in D.C. is different than anywhere else. So I guess regionally, it still is important as any other thing. And then a couple years ago, it was this one young poet that performed at the inauguration. And it was a big deal because she was young, and then she did some poem that was just blowing everybody's mind. And people were like, that's cool. Like, when people are presented it and they realize, like, oh, poetry's powerful still to this day. You just don't get exposed to it that much. But poetry is important. And I guess depending on where you grew up or where you live, you see more of poetry and how it's used. And I follow some guys on social media, and he's literally, you know, talking about how poetry can be used in several different avenues. Like, I've seen people do a poem at an event. Let's say a birthday party, you can do a poem for their birthday. If you have like a conference, have a poet kind of kick it off. Just kind of like get people in, you know, kick it off. I've seen lots of different times where you just somebody come in and do a poem as a way of like kicking off everything, or have a poem that kind of touches on the theme. Let's say we got a conference and the theme is family or love or something like that, or ambition, for example. Let's say ambition or entrepreneur conference, or ambition, taking risk, and then somebody does a poem to kind of kick it off. So poetry can be used in so many different ways.
Yeah. So for a person that might be a young kid, or even somebody that's older that might be watching us right now, and they want to be a poet, or they're writing in their room, or they want to take it serious, like, do you feel like if they want to take it serious and that's what they want to do in life, do you feel like that's a path that they should go down? And I know you're also a teacher, so you know, like, that's where most of your, you know, your income comes from and stuff like that. But like, if they want to be a poet and they like, oh, I want to make a living off of this, like, do you think that that's something they should do? Is it hard? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm not gonna say that they shouldn't. Like, it's definitely possible to be like you say, a writer. Like, there's so many people that write books for a living, and you can do that as a poet. I know people that travel as a poet for a living. It's not easy. So, like, if a kid tells me they want to be in the NFL, I'm not gonna say they can't do it. It's just not gonna be easy. Are you willing to put in the work? Because there's gonna be a lot of sacrifice that gotta go into it. Me, I would never do it full time, but I do it on my own pace. So when I want to write, I'd write. When I don't want to write, I don't write. So that's the way I like it. But if you're writing poetry to keep the lights on, you got to write all the time.
Yeah.
I don't feel like writing poetry, but Dominion Energy still going to have that bill coming whether you want to do it or not. So if you want to, you want to be a pro basketball player, I don't feel like shooting free throws after practice. Hey, there's somebody else who is doing that.
Yeah.
So if you want to put in the work, yeah, you can definitely be successful in it.
Okay.
And you're taking these classes anyway. You can take that creative writing class. I took one in college. While you're going through school, you can tap into that creativity. They have classes, they got clubs. I was talking to a teacher not too long ago. She has like a club where, I think it's even a class where they pretty much write poetry. And then they go around performing, and then they having a yearly event where the parents come in and hear them do their poetry. So
if that kid was like, I want to do poetry and I want to make money at it, what would be the avenue? Like how you said, like writing books, like where do you feel like the direction that they would go in where it would be the most fruitful for them?
Performing it.
Performing it?
Yep. It's just like musician. Recording it, putting it out there.
So that's more fruitful than like if they wrote books?
I think so. Because when you perform it, you can bring the book. Because after they hear you, they want to buy the book. So if you can pair your performing with the book, then it's double the income. Because let's say you get paid a certain amount of money to do the poem. And then you have a table set up. So let's say everybody at that conference heard you do that poem, and now you got a set up table. So on their way out, they're getting a business card from you. Oh, I got another event that I think you'd be good to do a poem at. So that performance is going to lead into other ways to make money. But I think performing is always going to be that. Because what about the people that don't read? There's a lot of people who just don't. I'm not. I buy this book. I'm probably not going to read it.
Yeah.
You heard me do it. You like hearing me do it. That's when recording it. I got poetry on Spotify, Apple Music too. Like, it's not making me a bunch of money, but it's a way to hear me. So if they do want to reach out, like say a business owner reaches out to me like, hey, can you do some poetry at my event? A friend of mine's getting married. He hit me up about doing a poem.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like charge him because like we're good friends, but somebody reaches out like, hey, I want you to do a poem for my wedding. Like, there's an avenue to that. I'm gonna write a poem specifically for you and your wife, or you and your partner, and then I can perform it there.
Okay. And do you think that I don't want to say not do poetry, but do you think that like they could branch off and be like, well, I do want to write books, or like, because I know you do like your little poetry books, but do you do like writing of any other kind? Do you do a lot of reading? Like, is there other ways that they could be like how I started off? Like people who know my story, I started off DJing and I had a camera and I would do stuff with that while I was actually a DJ, but then I transitioned to being a videographer. So do you feel like that transition might be something that they would want to do? Like, I'm doing my poems and stuff like that, but let me transition and maybe write some stories or write books or...
I feel like if you're creative, you could write other types of writing too. You could probably, if you can write poems, I think you can write songs because it's really not that much different.
Yeah, that could be something they could
So
transition to.
you can
too,
write
like
songs. You could write songs. You could write a play. I know a lot of poets who are just, if you're an artsy person, I feel like you're creative in other different ways. So while you're writing your poems, you're performing your poems, you're writing a book. Like I said, even the average person wants to have more than one stream of income.
Avenue.
So
Yeah,
I feel like you can. I have written short stories before. Like that's just, I'm not a long-winded person, so poetry's right up my avenue. Like I don't have to write a 3-page story.
Yeah.
It can be a minute, 45 seconds, whatever.
Yeah.
Even some shorter poems than that. So that's my avenue of writing. But then maybe I can collab with somebody, because a lot of these stars write books, but it's somebody else writing it, or they're collabing with it. So you could collab with somebody, write a book. You could write a play, maybe a script. Like, yeah, so I feel like you're a writer. I think you could branch out.
Yeah, man. Like, that's the only reason why I asked is, to keep people's eyes open. Like, we always have a vision that we want, or it's kind of like what we see doing, and then things veer off and they can change. And a lot of times we don't even think about what we're doing right now could lead us into another direction. That's the only reason why I asked that question. So,
I mean, why pigeonhole yourself into it?
I mean, we do it all the time, man. I thought I was gonna be the biggest DJ in the world. Look at me now. But
The pivot.
yeah, the pivot. What's going on, guys? Sun5 Films here. If you made it this far into the interview, thank you. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Now let's get back to the interview. You're watching Sun5 Films TV. So what's one piece of advice that you learned in life that somebody told you or taught you that you would want to pass on to somebody?
I guess I'm big on this too, especially with students. You gotta do the stuff you don't want to do the stuff you do want to do.
Yes, sir.
Because there's a lot of stuff that you don't want to do per se, but you want to have the extra money, or you want to have this promotion. So
Yes,
you gotta do the stuff you don't want to do the stuff you do want to do. So that lesson, and hard work was like, my dad's one of the hardest working people I know, to a fault. Like, I don't think he works too hard. Like, me and him are a little different. Like, he is not, I'm more like chill time. I like my chill time. He don't know how to chill. So, but I did, I saw that hard work will get you what you need.
Yeah.
Sacrifice and hard work. You might not want to do it, but it'll get you done. Like, I didn't want to be out there cutting grass in the summertime, but at the time, that couple $100 a week, I was like, man, I can get these video games I want. I can buy this cassette tape, or I can go to the movies or whatever.
Yeah.
So, hey, that's what I needed.
I live by that myself, man. Do the things that you don't want to do so you can do the things that you do want to do. Yeah, man. So, what's one thing that people don't really know about you, or something that they may think about you and it's not even the way that way it may seem?
People think I'm pretty like go with the flow. I try to stay positive about it, but I got my good days and bad days like everybody else. I'm pretty even. Like, you won't see me really get mad about anything, but there are moments like that I get angry. Things that make me angry, even though I just don't let it get the best of me. So, people see me as this happy-go-lucky person, but I do have my days when, things aren't going right, or I'm just feeling down about something. I just don't let it kind of get the best of me. So.
And what do you do? Because we all go through those moments, tough moments. We struggling, stressed out, or whatever. Like, what's something that you would do to try to help you, or something to make you feel better, or put you in a better mood, or things like that?
Just being around people, like being around friends, that definitely makes it better. I like to play sports, listen to music. That's kind of my biggest thing. Like, when I'm not working or doing something that I have to do, just hanging out with friends, playing sports, that's definitely like that hour that I'm playing kickball or softball is just, I forget about everything else I had going on. Just get caught up in the competitiveness, the social aspect of it. Like, that definitely clears my head.
Right, man. And you do poetry. We talked about, the books a little bit, like how you said you write books, but, talk about some of the other things that you do. You do books. You got some merch. You got T-shirts. You do shows. So talk about some of those things real quick.
So, speaking of open mics and just wanting to get myself out there as a performer, I decided to do my own show. Because in the poetry world, or just in the musician world, comic world, you want to get to the point where somebody's like reaching out to you, so they can pay you to do it. I wasn't getting that as much as I wanted to, so let me present myself. I'm gonna have my own show, just because I do a lot of social media, self-promote. I've been getting better at self-promoting. I don't want to like annoy you, but I want to let you know that I do poetry. So I was just around town, and just people that see what I post, like, hey, I see you posting your videos. Where can I see you do something at? So I was like, all right, cool. I started putting my own event together. So I've been doing it for the last few years, and starting to get bigger, and I'm getting good feedback. So I basically put on an hour show. I reach out to the venue, put together the performance myself, and I kind of showcase my poetry. I have a group of my poetry friends, and just people I've met, just some social networking, just being at different events. I reach out to them, like, hey, I want you to come do some poetry at my event. So I get a nice lineup, a nice variety. That's what I love about poetry, is like not one way to do it. Yeah. So there's so many different poets out there. I want the crowd to, especially it's a lot of people's first time ever being to a poetry show, other than the fact that they saw me do it, or like you said, Def Poetry Jam, but I've never been to a show myself. So I've been inviting people out, and they've been having a good time, and they're asking me when the next one is. And so I try to have enough where you're looking forward to the next one. Right. I don't want to oversaturate it. I want you to looking forward to the next one. I got people asking about when's the next light show. So my poetry event is called the Light Show. Yeah. And then I do about 20 minutes of poetry myself, and then I have a nice mix of my poetry friends come out and do something too.
Yeah, and then you got the books. How many books you got?
So officially, I got one book that you can get on Amazon called Flicker Poetry. But before that, I was doing some kind of like my version of a mixtape. I put together this book of poems on my own, and I was just selling them through, just networking on people, going to events. So I did 3 of those, and then I got some CDs that I started recording and putting it on Bandcamp, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Apple Music, Spotify. So you can check me out at Mr. Enlightenment on Apple Music, Spotify. If you're a Bandcamp person, Mr. Enlightenment on there. So books that I was putting together on my own. Then I want to be taken seriously to the poetry world in general. They consider you an author when you got that barcode. Like my book can be in Barnes and Noble, my book can be in the Amazon store, it could be sold on my website. So I got that barcode on it now. Like I'm official now. I got the barcode, so I can go perform at the library or, with some other authors. I can be on the panel with some other authors because I got that barcode now.
Right. So we're gonna get out of here in a second, man. But give any contacts you want to give, your social medias and everything like that.
So Instagram at Kilowatt Poet, Snapchat, TikTok at Kilowatt Poet, YouTube channel is Kilowatt Poet 1. Just search Mr. Enlightenment, it'll pop up. I appreciate the follows. I post a lot. I got some videos and I post some small poems just to get some conversation and all. So I'm definitely big on interacting with people. So follow me. We can interact. You want me to come out to a show? You got a friend that likes poetry. Tell them about the light show. Tell them about Mr. Enlightenment. If you see a shirt around town, Thomas Edison, my homeboy, or Be the Light, or Love Like Tesla, Hustle Like Edison. So I got a line of shirts, hats, merch games, fluorescent, my promo game. I got stickers all over town. Definitely doing some promo. Mr. Enlightenment, check me out.
Yes, sir, man. And if you don't know the face by now, I am Sunfire Films. I got my boy with me, Joey Tucker, Mr. Enlightenment, the Kilowatt Poet. You're watching Sunfire Films TV. We gone.
You've been enlightened.
That's my daddy.